Hello, Sam. Good.
Long time no see, man. How are you?
Yes,
Glad to greet you.
it's the best ever.
It's good.
How about you?
It's going well. New words every week now.
That's exciting.
Did your kids have a lot of fun in the snow?
Yeah. That's what he's up there doing now.
Nice.
His favorite toy of all the little knickknacks and fun things that we've got up is Daddy's shop vac.
Oh.
Garage. He likes to push it to one side of the garage, then push it to the other side. And now that's a little warmer out, he likes to push it around the driveway.
Okay,
So
all right.
if you're wondering what your kid needs for Christmas, Lucky M18 shop vac.
Okay. You're probably using new shop vac now.
All right.
Like the latch is like broken at one, starting to fall off on one side.
I honestly don't think it's a very good shop vac, but it's an excellent child's toy.
Okay, got it. Should we get the meeting started?
Yep, you're the leader.
Cool. Just help me out if I miss anything, so I'm not just leading it, but we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And we'll do a roll call. So I've got the agenda up here.
Do you want help? Let me know where you need me.
Well, I was like,
You could just know for the record who's here, if that's easier.
okay, cool, yeah, let's go ahead. CT.
Here.
And then Casey. And then Kate.
Sure.
Lindsay
Lindsay is online.
and Alex.
It's just stepped away, but Alex is here.
Okay, amazing. And welcome attendees, and is there anyone from the public online?
We've got quite a few in the room
Okay, cool.
and a couple public members online, and then Rich is with SAB to talk about
Okay,
rights
cool.
of nature.
I was like, Rich, I was like, not sure if, I was just making sure. Okay, approval of minutes. As far as that goes, everyone had a chance to see them?
Yes, motion to approve February minutes. Second.
And then
Yes.
what's the next step? Just remind me.
You can do all in favor, say aye, or you can do a roll call vote, whatever you prefer.
All in favor, say aye for the minutes.
Aye.
Well,
Anyone opposed?
thank you.
Okay, and then public comment.
Cool. All right. Is there any online public comment? Just,
You have, Rick, I don't know if you're interested. I know there's Brantley Brown, but are you interested in giving a public comment?
and tell us your name, I'm sorry.
My name is Elizabeth Courage.
Elizabeth, thank you for joining us.
I live up on Rickery Circle. And so my concern relates to the redevelopment at the rink.
Okay.
And I'm very supportive of the rink itself and the sports, that's good. But I have deep concern about a proposal that was out there, may still be out there, I don't know, because I'm going to get additional information regarding expansion to include outdoor pickleball courts. I've done a little bit of my own research. I'm certainly no expert, but frankly, municipalities all across the country, scores of them, have opened outdoor pickleball courts near residential areas, only to have noise complaints be such that they have injunctions, they've been closed down, there have been lawsuits and so on.
Oh, interesting.
People can't relax in their homes, the noise is considerable. It's very different from tennis, it's just a very loud, explosive sort of sound. And I certainly know that it's a popular sport, I don't want to take enjoyment away from other people.
Sure.
But I feel that this is not an appropriate place for it. And so it concerns me in terms of property values. It concerns me in terms of that area where the rink is and sort of up behind my property and over toward the elementary school, that wooded area. There aren't any trails through there. And our neighborhood, which has grown a great deal since I built there, serves as a sort of corridor for wildlife moving from the west to the Mud Lake Nature Conservancy area, right through on that other side. And that little green space, if I can call it that back there, is a place where frankly, a lot of the wildlife rest. They graze back there, they sleep back there. You see elk herds and moose and deer, pine marten and coyote and bobcat in there. And, that kind of explosive noise coming from the rink area would probably drive all of that away. And I think that's another concern that I have. And of course, the wildlife don't have any seat at the table or voice in the process, but those of us who live there value that and value the experience of seeing those animals. And that's one of the reasons we enjoy the area.
You got about a minute left, just.
I know that in Denver, and if you go and look online on ABC News, NBC News, they did several reports last fall because Denver, the city, had shut down 3 courts, 3 sets of pickleball courts because of noise problems. And then they went and they shut down 8 more of these pickleball courts. And they researched, the city did, because they put a lot of money
Sure.
into opening these courts, and they were popular. I mean, it is a popular sport. But they researched sound barriers, what was out there, what would work. And they learned that
You go ahead and finish
not
up.
only would the fencing need to be way higher than the fencing they currently have, which is like 10 feet. So now you're talking about 12, 14-foot fence.
Mhm.
But even with that and the kind of baffles and so on, they determined that looking at the technology, that it would not resolve the problem. And that's why they then closed down those additional courts and have converted them back to, I guess, tennis courts. So, I see this and I feel that it's a problem if we put outdoor pickleball courts there. Plus, given our weather, you're talking about courts that maybe are useful 3 months, 3.5 months of the year, but those are the months when people are sitting on their porches, on their decks, they want to be outside, have dinner with friends, enjoy some quiet. And I just feel that this is going to be a real problem, and also a problem for the town, because if they're then closed down after being built, you spent the money, and now the pickleball community doesn't have the courts that
They
they would like to
expected.
have. You spent the money, and you see what I'm
Sure,
saying?
sure.
There are a whole host of reasons
Yeah.
why I think it's not the right place for that to happen.
Sam, would you be okay if Nikki commented?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was gonna say what if kind of defer to you on that one.
How are you, Elizabeth? It's good to see you. It's been a couple of years, actually. We were on the backside of your property clearing
I
trees
know,
this
and
year
I
finally.
wanted to actually commend and thank you, because after like 12 years of hoping the town would clean up some of that
We're working
down trees and so on.
chipping away, so to speak.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. So I just wanted to make sure that you are aware that we have been playing pickleball there for the last 5 years.
I
And
know that there has been some pickleball.
And so there won't be any expansion of the pickleball. It'll just be moving the tennis courts to the northwest side of that property, maybe. That's just kind of the goal. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that we've already been playing
Oh,
pickleball there.
yes, I am aware, because in the summer you can hear it. I mean,
Okay.
and it's a concern, and that's why expansion for what looked like from the plan that I saw when I did the Cora request was 6 pickleball courts.
Probably more like 5, but
That was what was in there.
it is a thought. But it wouldn't go outside the footprint that it's already in now.
So maybe what I could add, and I think it's Miranda, when we emailed it, they're obviously meaning to reevaluate. So it's members of PROSAB. Alex is the PROSAB member who serves on that board. Nikki, Mountain Pickleball, the pickleball tennis team and rink, to really decide what's the right move. We recognize there were some funding structure challenges with GOCO. And so once a design has been landed on by that internal team, it'll go out for public commenting. And so it's really good to hear from you now, and there will be
Yeah.
plenty of opportunities to give your input. The last time I realized everything was happening really rushed. And so we also kind of, in many ways, recognize we want to make sure there's, 3 or 4 months of lead up time to get that comment to fine tune. And so we hope that in the next couple months, we'll be able to finalize a design to bring forward for community input.
And that's really important because in part, as I found out about this kind of it does feel to people in the community sometimes that they're being blindsided.
Sure.
That
Yeah.
something's happening and because, for example, when a home is going up, that's a little bit different, if you will. There was one, I think, a little bit bigger than normal.
Yes.
And we all got notices. And so we heard about this and it was, did anybody get a notice? And nobody
Yeah.
got a notice,
Right.
that kind of thing. Because then people don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and I think Nikki had also, we've also talked a lot about definitely the neighbor outreach. I think that grant moved faster than, and we were eager to kind of jump on that, but recognize maybe some of the challenges that we created unnecessarily for ourselves by how quickly we had to move. And ultimately it was GoCo who said like, hold up, spend a little bit more time. And that was great feedback because it's given us the opportunity to know that they still want us to apply, but to maybe change the approach that we take. And so that's really what they're doing, but want to allow that small team to continue to kind of navigate what their recommendation is to put out for public feedback. So more to come, but I would say 2 months out maybe from being able to have a design ready for public consumption.
And if I have to, Elizabeth, I will walk door to door around Rickery and Shoshone and just to make sure that I get
Yeah.
all the opinions from that neighborhood that are pertinent.
Certainly, Rick's house is even closer than mine, so he may have a comment he'd like to make.
Yeah, so we've got Rick's online, so Rick just raised your hand, so feel free if that's okay.
Yeah, Rick, go ahead. The one thing I'll add that I didn't add is we'll just do a 3-minute limit on public comment. So I'll start a timer. Go ahead.
Thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Go ahead.
I'm one of the neighbors close to Elizabeth, and Elizabeth brought up some good concerns. When I saw the initial design, I thought that there was no real planning, no demonstration of a transition from the ice rink to the neighborhood. The number of parking spaces is going to increase drastically. So a lot of the parking is going to be right in my backyard. It looks like there's going to be a lot of trees cut down, and there's been potential wind damage before. So if you cut out a lot of the trees, all the neighbors next to it are going to have a lot of wind damage. And it would be useful for part of that to have some transition. So to either put up a berm, put up a fence, plant additional trees to reduce part of the noise, part of the wind, and part of the extra traffic that's going to be there with the development. So I think the development's a good idea, but it looked like the development was planned for that space by itself with no idea that it's right next to a neighborhood. Thanks.
Thank you.
So I do think some of what we were attempting to do through Rank is to minimize impacts to the neighborhood. There's a ton of parking on the road when there's big events going on at Rank, and to expand the parking so you guys don't have essentially a parking lot on your main way to your neighborhood. And I think we definitely, comments well taken on, like we've talked about noise barriers. I don't think there are any plans to cut down trees be on that side of the rink, just in the tennis court,
Just in that little center.
northeast corner.
area.
Yeah, to clear for more parking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, but thank you for the comment. We
Definitely
are taking
appreciate
feedback.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah,
My name is Rich Orman.
Hold on one second. Let me just make sure that. Did you have anything else to add? I want to make sure you have the opportunity to.
yeah. One other thing that to some have parking on the road doesn't bother me too much. With the design, all of a sudden there'd be like 20, 25 parking spaces right in our backyard. So to have a bunch of cars looking right at the house is worse than having cars parked on Indian Peaks Road.
And just to clarify, like a question that I have, that's town land that we're speaking of, just so we obviously want to take it into consideration, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So we wouldn't of course, want to impact.
Private property.
Yeah.
No eminent domain here.
Okay,
My name's,
thank you.
my name's Rich Orman. I'm the co-chair of the Sustainability Advisory Board. Some of the issues that this member of the public brought up really make me think that this should be an issue that we look at as well. If it's going to impact wildlife. That is just. Also. Particular traffic going to result from this. How much gasoline, what's the carbon footprint going to be of all the people driving from various places to play pickleball that aren't doing it now? And then to me, if that's the case and there's potential wildlife issues, you know, I think that we also need to look at this as, and maybe come up with a position as the Sustainability Advisory
Sure.
Board. So I just thought I would mention that. I think that
Thank
we
you.
should look at it too.
And
Yeah,
I don't want to dominate this, but the other thing that, and Rick has mentioned it, is the wind damage. My house, I built my house before the rink was there, okay, and at that time it was all wooded. And, you know, we all have wind, it's Nederland, it's just the reality. But you can see the wind damage along that side of the rink. I mean, if you walk that trail that goes down along that edge of the rink to Indian Peaks, you can see the smashed off trees halfway, you know, big trees. And there's been a huge amount of wind damage since the rink was put in because that wind barrier that the trees provided is gone. And I get a lot of damage on the back of my property. I have another huge tree that came down, healthy, big tree, not dead, this winter. And I've spent thousands of dollars having, you know, tree service come
Sure.
in and deal with this. But the more that's taken out, the greater the problems are for the people who border the rink, not, and also just we're losing a lot of trees. But I do like Rick's idea of a kind of earthen berm that's treed, you know, to try to block a lot of what's been happening, because the more that it happens, the more of those trees that we lose. And of course, when they go down and aren't taken out, then we have wildfire issues as well. So I mean, there's a host of things. If it's possible to do any kind of an environmental impact study to look at what's going on, not as a barrier to doing anything, but to look at what's happening and what would be appropriate measures, maybe through the Sustainability Advisory Board, to help to mitigate that. That would be wonderful.
well, thank you. And thank you for your input. And I think that sounds like it makes sense.
You have Brantley Brown on. I don't know, Brantley, do you have a comment on non-agenda items? If not, I think you're good to move forward. And maybe just acknowledge that Angie Severs did write a letter regarding the signage around town. Nikki responded to that letter, so hopefully there's a little listserv challenges. Hopefully you received that though. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add about that letter.
Do you just want to recap it real quick?
So the last summer, was it last summer? Somebody came through the Severs property, that was a traveler, and they didn't know, they told the Severs that they didn't know the way to the community center. And they were off trail, not being, am I allowed to say?
Yeah.
What happened?
Oh, I think
Yeah,
I
they
think it
were
was
just-
on like
yeah,
a
yeah.
public meeting.
Yes, it
where
was.
Jeff
So,
described it.
Like if Jesse wants to, we would let Jesse.
yeah, so either way, so Angie had asked if we could put some signage at the top of the community center trail and the bottom of the community center trail. Basically mapping out the way
Yeah.
to the community center so that people weren't going off the sidewalk.
Off the paved sidewalk?
Yeah, so
Was this person smashed?
possibly,
Well,
I'm not
it's
sure.
essentially like they were like looking in their windows and stuff like that. Is that the incident?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so I think, sure,
Kind of
that incident
yeah.
has a lot to it, and I think the ultimate point, though, is that it's not incident specific. There's really just a recognition of the value of wayfinding, no matter what. To
Sure.
make sure that we orient people to the right trail system.
Yeah.
I couldn't be more in support of good wayfinding
Yeah.
and sign
Really.
in our communities, but this
So-
seems like a case more related to law enforcement than part.
For law enforcement to get involved, and so,
Yeah.
but I think that's just sure, the incident had law enforcement involved, and there were things that happened under that incident. But then, like, is there a larger kind of lesson learned of sorts? And I think for Angie and the Seavers, really recognizing that, you know, if this person's statement has accuracy to
Right.
it, that I got lost, wayfinding can help to mitigate future incidents of that.
And now that we have a new town logo and color swatches
Yeah.
and things like that, I actually almost look forward to designing a sign that would be, you know, kind of trail parks specific, showing people the way on this
Yeah.
one, and we can use it as a template to wayfind other trails and sidewalks around town. So the DDA has the plan to basically wayfind the whole downtown area. And so maybe I can use their template to kind of,
Yeah, the only thing is that trails is a part of phase 2.
Right.
It's not a part of phase
but
1.
eventually
Yeah.
we'll use this first sign to kind of jump off.
And you're still moving forward with the sign, not waiting for phase 2 of wayfinding.
No,
You're doing
this sign is coming out
Yeah,
of the
okay.
signage budget from the parks.
The
Sign-
sign specifically for the community center. trail.
Specifically for the community.
I'll
center.
share with Dawn.
We could cost share with Don, maybe we will cost share with Don, I think it makes sense, but I'm looking forward to the template, so,
Very good.
so yeah. I dropped the ball in communicating with Angie because I was waiting for DDA to do, I thought it was gonna happen a little bit quicker, but, either way, now we're ready to
Such is life.
start proceeding,
Yeah, just thank you
Again?
for the comment.
yeah, so I
Get-
appreciated it
get
putting it
started again.
back on my radar, I always appreciate that.
Wonderful. Any more public comment? I know we're past that, but I think that person was hanging out.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to informational items and we'll start by just thanking you again for taking the meeting minutes because I had that role at one point and it's actually very hard. So thank you. Just want to acknowledge that.
Thank you, Alex, for covering it.
Have you not told them how we do it, Mike?
They
How do
use
you-
AI to do their minutes.
How does
So
it,
Casey,
I mean,
if you
does it
wanna-
work well? I mean, I use AI in my business to write meeting minutes. Does it work well? for you?
I think,
Yes, we're not.
I think.
I've shared mine, I don't know if I've told Casey about, it, but even the clerks, like our clerk and Britt, they're not interested in AI at this point, but it's a tool that savvy people.
We
Absolutely.
could pilot it and see if,
Either one of us
and just
would be
compare the
able to-
I
meeting
would
minutes.
say it's Casey's
I
choice.
think for now, I'll just stick to my own brain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Right on.
That's interesting and
Yeah.
helpful.
I use AI for meeting notes in my business and it works really good. But, you know, I think what you do specifically is pull out like the important pieces. Cause there's a lot that's going on in addition, so.
Yep, we're leaving it to board choice, so.
All right, moving on. Rights of nature presentation from Rich Orman.
Oh, I didn't realize this was a presentation.
What's that? So I linked to the,
I thought I was
presentation.
answering questions.
The presentation in the packet, maybe Rich, you could just give a brief overview of what is rights of nature, what's your responsibility as a guardian, and then we'll pepper you with questions.
So as I said on the previous issue, my name's Rich Orman.
Yeah.
I'm on the SAB. And a number of years ago, the town board passed a resolution recognizing sort of the river, the creek, as having rights of nature. And it's really sort of a non-binding resolution that essentially basically says we should really look at issues that impact the watershed. So we have been considering this for some time with the SAB, and the town board recently passed some implementing language. And essentially what that did is it said that there should be these river guardians appointed, and we're going to, the river guardians, me being one of them, the other being Alan Happ, another member of SAB, are going to take concern of issues relating to the watershed specifically really the watershed that flows through the town. There's two main creeks that we're interested in, one being, both are branches of Boulder Creek, one being the town's water supply watershed, and the other one being the creek that comes up from Caribou,
From,
runs down, yeah, well,
or
from
like,
the mine.
not past, from the mine, but past the mine.
Yeah, in that whole area, from the mine and other places too.
Yeah.
Middle Boulder Creek and North Beaver
Yeah.
Creek. are the two.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
So, take into consideration, issues raised by the public
Sure.
and, things like, so things that have at least come to our attention so far. And once a year or so, write a report, a very brief report to the town board, giving them our input. Issues that have come up that that have at least come to our attention so far have been things like, the expansion of reservoirs at Eldora.
Hmm.
The mine,
Mhm.
some issues going on with, some legal issues with the mine that really aren't urgent. And, those have been the two main issues that have been brought to our attention, and Alan has really sort of taken the lead on those. Anything else really relating to the watershed could be brought to our attention as something we can look at. We have no legal authority. We're not gonna be.
Just kind of like watching out for being the voice of that watershed in a way.
Yeah,
community.
in a way, being a voice of the watershed in the community. And I was really nervous that essentially we'd become a fool's mailbox. Every person in the community who has any grudge against anybody to say,
Right,
you know, my neighbor's, you know, cutting down a tree that I really like, and that's gonna impact the watershed, and please go after my neighbor or something like that.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened. It's really only been some serious issues that have been brought to our attention. So
wonderful.
that's essentially it.
Oh, I'll ask the question for starters is, just from your perspective, what do you think PROSAB as a board should be taking into account relative to that? I mean, it's a little bit obvious, but like, you've been thinking
You know,
about it.
I honestly, I really don't know a
Okay.
lot about what PROSAB does. I didn't
Yeah.
even know what PROSAB stood for until I just started thinking what it must be.
Oh, sure.
Sitting right-
It's advisory board.
Exactly,
Just
yeah.
for anybody who doesn't.
So,
I guess I could have spelled that out when I
Yeah.
invited you.
So,
Gotta do your homework.
you know, like,
That was good.
things that
Yeah.
I think would be of interest would be like, you know, frankly, deforestation, if you
Yeah.
guys were gonna say, put
But a
something
park
in-
here and take trees down. or
in
something
Moose
like that.
Meadows,
Yeah.
or something like that, or, you know, theoretically, the pump track.
For sure,
could
yeah,
have-
that has a relationship to the watershed in terms of location
Yeah.
nearby of concern.
Right, so that's not something we've really taken a look at. I'm more concerned with the broad issues
Yeah.
of the watershed than, I mean, that's a pretty small impact, I think, but it has been mentioned at,
Well, no, it's a legitimate thing to be concerned about and make sure that it's taken into account into the plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's appropriate for SAP to really look at it at this point, simply because it's an election issue.
Yeah.
And that's not something I think that we should get involved in.
Right,
But, you know, I don't know if the board would want us to look at, proposed development. You know, there's this whole potential contingent downtown development.
sure,
I could see that having an impact on runoff, simply because if you're taking something that's now dirt and you're making it paved, that's gonna impact the outflow into the river. Not enough to really make a huge difference, but that's something to consider. I don't really, you know, there's this other development that I've seen mentioned of an annexation of this sort of, I'm not sure it qualifies as a wetland, but it sure looks like one to me from a distance, out sort of towards Eldora to put in some housing potentially.
oh, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
I think I saw 18 acres mentioned or something like that. I don't know if that's something, that is certainly something I think that we would at least wanna.
I imagine it'd be on your radar if it's development of any significant scale, you know, you just wanna say, hey, make sure that it's complying with and doing your best to protect the watershed.
I don't know, the compliance is really the issue, it's sort of.
Or more like the compliance, I think, happens in the planning stages anyways,
Yeah.
largely.
So, those are that's sort of the idea
Cool.
behind it. I think that, I think that some people thought we'd be like going to court and stuff and suing on behalf of Boulder Creek. Legally, I don't think that that really could happen, but we don't have that authority under any stretch of the imagination. And one of the things I think that we're well aware of is that we are a advisory board to the town board and subsidiary to them.
Yeah,
I think another thing to add is that the Guardians will issue reports on like the health of the watershed,
Yeah.
the impacts to the watershed. And so those reports will be delivered to the
Yeah.
Board of Trustees. And so really, it's recognizing that the capacity is a challenge around here. So now we have Rich and Allen to really ensure that the watershed is being evaluated and
Yeah.
decisions that both are inside town limits as well as what's happening kind of with our neighboring communities like Boulder County Unincorporated, where there may be mining activities or annexation or Eldora. What are they doing that could have an impact on our watershed, and just providing that added support of evaluating what's coming down the pipeline.
are you gonna be doing any testing of the water or anything, like any period, like sort of intervals? The reason I ask, and then we'll open it up to everybody else to ask questions, but is I was actually part of a riverkeeper program like years ago as a teenager, and in North Carolina, and they did a great job. And I have a good friend who runs the riverkeeper program for, I want to say the French Broad in Asheville, a pretty large watershed and river. And I could always connect him with you, kind
So
of.
I can answer that question.
Yeah, because that's like a national program.
Well, I will just say this before Miranda answers.
Yeah.
We don't have a lab.
Right.
Right.
So,
So the utilities obviously already test
Yeah.
Middle Boulder Creek. That's
Okay,
our
got
drinking
it.
water source. That's already being tested. Boulder County or City of Boulder tests Barker, because that's their water. So we
Sure.
have it sourced from there. And so we've asked Boulder Watershed Collective to do North Beaver.
Gotcha.
So there are other parties working on testing that will then, so
They kind of give
at
that to
any
you.
point they're not being like actively fed to Rich and Allen, but at any point,
Okay.
all three entities have results that could be pulled for whatever reporting or.
Or if there's an awareness issue. they're
Right,
like,
it
"Oh,
would
hey."
alert us if there was any sort of contaminants or any sort of concern out of that, like definitely not Middle Boulder Creek, there are no concerns, but I think people have more concerns about North Beaver, especially if the mine ends up getting the permitting they're seeking
Sure.
and start operations again.
Yeah,
and it goes really beyond contaminants too, but one summer in college, I worked for a river lab essentially, and my job was actually measuring the health of every stream that ran into the Blue Mountain Reservoir.
oh,
And so I would get up in a car and I would put on hip waders and I would measure the flow of each stream, and I would take samples, and then we would go back to the lab and we would analyze them.
yeah,
I really don't have much of a desire to put on hip waders, and I don't have the equipment. But I understand what you can learn from that.
but that's not really the nature of it.
That is not the
Got it.
nature of what we do. We're more of a sitting at our desks and looking at stuff, rather than sort of in the field
Right.
science stuff. Although I think the in the field science stuff would be more interesting.
Fair enough.
Any other questions?
Has anyone used the analogy, I'm a lawyer and like guardian ad litem in like custody proceedings and things? Is that like a good analogy? Like it's often appointed for minors to represent the interests of a minor. It's not like a party in a proceeding, but it's someone who can speak intelligently to someone's interests who might not be able to speak for themselves.
I think it goes way beyond that sort of narrow sort of legal idea. And it's more sort of a overview sort of type thing where we're sort of looking out for all aspects of the health of the watershed and the ecosystem above Nederland. I think below Nederland really is, that's not the town's major issue, so. But again, there's no,
Yeah, no, I hear you. I got it. People try to sue
Good
on
question.
things all the time
Right.
that they don't have standing for, so I fully understand that.
nor would we want to get involved in litigation. And we don't have a budget, so.
Yeah, it's really just a truly advisory in nature and recognizing that we place a lot of value under our watershed and environmental justice. And by doing kind of this declaration, we're really acknowledging that we recognize that the water has to be essential in all of decision making, you know, and you don't always have to consider it. And so I think it's just recognizing that every little development or every little thing that might come forward really needs to come from a lens of protecting water sources. And so I think that's a lot of that kind of commitment is honoring that as almost a decision maker at the table.
Yeah.
Is the waterway, and
Right.
Rich and Alan represent that water from kind of that
Yeah.
perspective.
Well, I think that's wonderful. Yeah, I'm excited about it. Didn't Ecuador do something similar through rights of nature for all of their natural areas?
I don't know about Ecuador, but I know that a number of municipalities have asked similar, I don't know if it's a resolution or ordinance or whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it in each individual thing, but, and I don't know that anyone has actually appointed guardians.
I believe we were the first to pass the rights of nature, and
That's
we're
cool.
the first to appoint guardians.
I think it's exactly what's needed. We
Yeah.
appreciate the volunteerism. Life up here is just not possible without a well-maintained watershed, so
Yeah.
thank
Well,
you. for doing
It's
what you're doing.
possible.
Yeah.
You know,
It's not possible for us. So,
Yeah.
Sounds
Well,
right.
that's great. Thank you. Is there anything else
No?
any other questions? Wonderful.
Well, then I'm gonna take my leave and enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Sounds like it'd be a cool article for the Mountaineer too.
I think they wrote it.
They
and
wrote,
They
they've
read-
also been in the Colorado.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I need to get
It all
to,
passed
get to
because
reading.
It passed,
Yeah.
oh,
It
3
was,
or
like,
4 years
big.
ago.
My mother-in-law sent it to me in
Oh, amazing.
January. Yeah, she sent me the article.
Ah,
Wow.
Huh?
yeah.
Well, that
I
seems
read
like
the same
something
thing.
to be very proud of.
Yeah, very much so.
Moving on, special event update from town staff. Peter.
Peter is online with us.
Peter, welcome. We're excited to have you here.
I just had asked for an update on this, I think, when you sent the
Yeah,
list out.
yeah, so I sent, you know, when I send out here's what's coming down the pipeline, Peter presented to the Board of Trustees about last year's events, letting them know how they went. And then also kind of some plans, so he's just gonna do a brief review of that, but if you wanna see his whole in-depth presentation, I would go to that board meeting on the 20th. That he did that, February 20th, but Peter, go ahead. We can't hear you. Is that me though? Peter? Jesse and Lindsay, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, we got a whole discussion.
Is, hello?
Peter,
Hello?
yes.
Okay.
Oh.
Don't know what
Yeah.
that was all about. But yeah, so thank you everyone for having me. I'll just do a quick overview of what we went through. I believe Miranda also included the presentation and the postmortem reports that we created for last year's events in the packet. So if you want a very in-depth analysis of what all was involved in our events, then I suggest checking those out. So for 2023, town was involved in 3 major events, and I mean that more from an actual town sponsored, as in we organized, help kind of facilitate things, and not just from a permitting standpoint. Those were Netter Days, the 4th of July parade, and the Holiday Mountain Market. So one of the things that was asked when we were going through this whole process is why were we even involved with these events? Why are we in the event space to begin with? There's a few reasons for that. The first is we want to kind of combat the rhetoric that Nederland hates events. You know, we did lose Frozen Dead Guy days after 2022, and that you probably saw someone write that or say that somewhere in town at some point. And you know, we want to say that's not true, but if that is going to not be true, then we actually have to put, you know, action where our mouths are and actually step up and do some of that work. Another reason is for at least one of those events, we were already doing the work for it. The 4th of July parade was mostly Nikki's show. Someone else was just filling out the applications. So it didn't make sense to, you know, have that kind of middle process. So we just stepped in, like, let's just do it all ourselves. And another reason was that if we don't, then it may not happen at all. That was a big thing for Holiday Mountain Market. Yeah, the Netherlands area seniors didn't want to continue doing that after 2022, and we were actually approached by them to take it over. When I say we, I mean me. So we go over all three of those just really quick. Netter Days was last March. It was something that we actually had been thinking of since November of the previous year, and uh, was our first jump into large events as a town. We didn't really have as much expertise as we were hoping, so we reached out and had an outside organizer help us get started for this first year. We really tried to make it kind of community and town focused. We got a lot of uh, just comments ahead of time that people wanted to see more events that were focused on the people that lived here and not just, bringing people up the mountain from Boulder to party and leave our town a mess or whatever. But so we tried to really focus more on the people that were already here. And there was a lot of exploration with our events, trying different things. We had the sledding hill, ice sculptures all around town. There was a barn dance, a hot cocoa trail. And we also encouraged other community members and businesses to have their own events. And a lot of it was just kind of throwing things at the wall and seeing what stuck. We we had a good takeaway from it. It was very unpredictable, the weather. Like the 24th, that Friday. Well, the day before it was actually quite warm. That was when the barn dance happened, and it was sunny, everyone was outside, very few jackets. It was great. And then the following morning it was so cold and we had intense winds. It was yeah, just there's no way to really predict that. Um, we learned a lot from it, just as far as like when to schedule things, how many like overall scope. I think we definitely went too much too soon. We tried to cram in everything we could, and some things had way more attention than others because of it. We tried doing merchandise, which was cool, but uh, it is just, has a high overhead. It's hard to recoup on merch. We are still selling some of that through the visitor center now even. Uh, but we did see that there is still an interest in doing something for Netter Day. So we really took a lot of the feedback we got from the community, from businesses, and we incorporated into what we will be doing for 2024. For the 4th of July, we've just been doing a parade for the last few years. It's kind of become just second nature. We know how to do it. It's an annual event. In the past, Salto and Tinshed were the sponsors for that. But we just kind of told them, we'll, fill out the applications, and if you're cool with us just using the space in front of your store, great. It also allowed us to address some other issues. There were some concerns about the announcer being not as family friendly, overall organization, and just people littering. The people like to throw candy and all kinds of things out into the street as people are walking by. So we kept it internal, had volunteers I know I remember seeing Chris Kelly just like run messages back and forth from like the start of the parade to the announcing booth. We also tried to find ways to expand upon it. We haven't been able to do fireworks for quite some time, and after talking to the fire department last month, it looks like it's not going to be anytime soon. So we also put together a pretty last minute potluck at Chipeta, which was incredibly well received. We basically just told everyone Public Works is going to bust out the grill. You bring a dish. If you can't, that's fine. Just show up, have fun, and hang out with the community. And afterwards, I was basically told by a lot of people that we should just do that on a regular basis. So that is another thing we are looking at. Very low overhead, very low setup, but a huge success nonetheless. So that helped kind of inform what we'll be doing for future events. And then Holiday Mountain Market, which we did last December. Like I said, we took it over from Nederland area seniors. It's kind of a cornerstone event for town and artists in the area. There's a number of craft fairs that happen in the peak to peak area. But a lot of people, make it out for this one, so we wanted to make sure it continued. So specifically, I just said, yep, I will take it over and organize it. And that is exactly what happened. We kept everything in-house, pretty much had no overhead expenses outside of the staff time from planning ahead of time and people working the actual show. I try to utilize things that happened in the past, since I had all of their previous notes, to make the experience just as enjoyable as it would have been in past years. But since we are a town, we aren't trying to make a direct profit. We can be a bit more lenient there, and so I dropped prices. I brought in an outside vendor for food and just basically told them, just pay the normal, rental fee for the kitchen to the community center, and you go nuts. You just, we'll see everything come back to town in the form of sales tax. So it is nice having that benefit to not try to need to immediately make a profit. We did bring in almost $3,500 just in booth fees ahead of time, which is nice because it covers all of our planning costs for salaries for everyone going into it. So we were already kind of covered by the time the event happened. So we were able to just really focus on what we could do for vendors. I think it does require a bit more planning ahead of time. So I'm going to start earlier this year, really try to get the layout just nailed down beforehand. There were some issues during setup where the room wasn't as big as I thought it was, so we had to kind of shift vendor booth sizes a bit. So I definitely am going to work to utilize more of the community center space so people can spread out and have just a more diverse crew of vendors. And then if I have the time and the resources, look at other ways we can add to the experience. I have this idea for maybe doing workshops for the vendors if they want to host like a class at some point during the festival. That'd be fun. Things like that. So that is what happened in 2023. For this year, took all of those and we're using it to kind of inform the events that we are doing moving forward. The first is Netter Days. I kind of took a step back, looked at what is Netter Days, what do we want it to be. One of the things that came out of last year was it didn't really have a central theme. So he decided to have it work under the purview of the visitor center moving forward, instead of having one large weekend celebration. Break it out into themed days. That is easier for businesses, community members to get on board with, to have something that would work alongside whatever like theme day we come up with. So and they could be anything. We could have like a locals appreciation day, or a historic scavenger hunt, or small craft competitions. And then we would just announce that to businesses like, hey, here's the date, here's the theme. Let me know if there's anything that you want to do to participate, and we'll help get the word out. So basically taking it right back to the root of what we wanted Netter Days to be, and not trying to do too much too fast with it. It also gives us a chance to incorporate any other events. We did an art day with the NDDA's Public Art Committee last year, and so we're going to redo that under a Netter Days umbrella. We have our first one scheduled for April 27th, and it is going to be the spring thaw out. Basically, we're going to take the hot cocoa trail from last year, which was one of the most popular things, and just make that its own event. We're going to have businesses who want to participate. They can either serve hot cocoa or something else that'll warm up, or some kind of warming themed thing to celebrate, the overall warming of spring. So it'll be fun. I sent out an email to businesses yesterday, and I'm starting to hear back from a few people. And also businesses are sending me different ideas for future Netter Days as well. So pretty cool. We also had the idea of doing a summer business passport, but yesterday we just talked with the Peak to Peak Chamber of Commerce, and they're going to be doing something similar. So we're going to hold off on that for this year and just let them do their thing. And that way there's no confusion or confliction. We are going to be doing the Independence Day parade and potluck again this year. So we'll have a bit more lead time to make the potluck a bit better, I think. And also, since we aren't going to be able to do fireworks, I do want to look at potential alternatives that we could do. Light shows was something that was brought up once. I know some large cities do drone shows, but those are incredibly expensive. So unless someone wants to just give me $10 million, that is the actual cost of some of these. It's ridiculous. But so we are looking at ways we can kind of expand on that. That is both not a fire danger, but also something that is memorable and enjoyable for the community. We will also be using this as our jumping off point for our next event, which is Netherlands' 150th birthday. So we are really going to start putting out that, hey, we're turning 150, starting on the 4th of July. That we are scheduling for the first weekend in August. So that is the 2nd through the 4th. And it's just going to be a huge birthday celebration for Netherlands' 150th, which is kind of crazy to think about. I've been meeting with a few of the different groups, Netherlands Area Seniors, the Lions, the Historic Society, and just kind of getting an idea of what people want to see as events. I'm not kind of committing to anything until I know that someone wants to kind of take charge on it. But right now we have a number of things happening over all the days that are all very community focused. We have a community dinner and birthday cake celebration scheduled for that Friday evening, followed by a barn dance over by the steam shovel. The following morning, there's going to be a pancake breakfast right where you all are sitting right now at the community center. We're going to have a parade that day. I did confirm that we will have horse and carriage hay rides happening through town over the weekend. So I don't have my entire sheet in front of me. Oh, I actually wrote it down here. Someone brought up the idea of doing an adult prom night, which I think is fun, and I want to pursue that as an idea. And then we're also looking at having a time capsule that people can add to that will be opened in 50 years during our bicentennial. So if you have any ideas, I would love to hear them. I want to incorporate as many, things happening around town as possible. And then we're gonna continue with the Holiday Mountain Market. Not a ton of changes from last year, just kind of expanding what's there and, like I said, kind of making better use of the space overall. And that is last year and this year's events. If anyone has any questions.
Any questions?
I just want to say thank you, Peter, for that presentation. Super helpful that I know all the dates of all the events I'm gonna put in my calendar. I did have a question about, I think I saw this on one of your slides, but the summer concert series. I didn't know if you had an update.
Yes.
Yeah,
On that, after anyone has any questions, the events you just remember.
So the only like confirmed date is during Netherland 150. They want to do one of their concerts on that Saturday, downtown from 4 to 7. I'm going to be connecting with Peter Fiore, who's in charge of Time Served. They're the ones doing the series over the next week or so, just to get an idea of where, when, how, anything that we can do to help with that whole process. But it looks like there's going to be 6 in total, starting going June through September or June through August, something like that.
That's huge.
Where will the concerts be? Or are they gonna be all around town?
We're planning to have them all around town. One of the initial ideas for this first concert series is to use this as a way to identify a potential concert space. So we're gonna try the space behind Gershio that was originally identified as a concert space. We're gonna do East First Street for this one, or for Ned 150, and I'm not sure where the other locations are gonna be, but the idea is to move it around.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
My only question was what's the responsibility between Peter, you and Nikki, and like how, because I know, I think you take more of a role maybe like 4th of July, and is this coming out of the parks budget when we pay for things related to events? And conversely, when we take in revenue from events, is that going into the parks budget?
It depends on the event. Sorry to interrupt, Peter. You want to take it?
Oh, you're good. Yeah, so we've been splitting the load between parks and the visitor center. I think moving forward for things like Netter Days, that's going to be solely the visitor center's responsibility. Anything that has a higher open space or trail impact might be parks related, but I think we're really taking that on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. I'm always worried about your capacity.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I haven't taken on anything more than I've already taken on.
Yeah.
Peter has been taking on, but Peter did all the work for Mountain Market. And the only thing I really have done so far for the Ned 150 is said, hey, Peter, Ned's gonna be 150 in 2 years. We gotta plan something. And I'll take the parade because I know how to do a parade.
That's great.
So, but there's very, very little that I've been taking on that's not more than I always do.
Okay. And then
That's a good
you were saying
question
no
to
on
ask.
the budget stuff. That's not park specific.
Yeah, no, the
Correct, yeah.
July hot dogs, things like that will come out of parks budget, but that's, that's okay. I'll take
So the
a,
cost.
yeah, Walmart, Costco, whatever it takes. But yeah, I think it's in total last year for decorations, all of the food, everything, I think we spent, Peter, do you remember $637 or something total?
I have the actual number. You spent $638.42.
Pretty darn close.
Yeah, and that's what I spent on everything.
Yeah.
From the parade to the potluck.
Thank
And I
you.
still have a lot of those decorations, so I won't spend as much.
Yeah, 4th of July is kind of evergreen decorations. It's not like New Year's.
Yeah.
Anything else, Peter? Any other questions? CT, any questions? No? You look like you're leaning in there for a second. Yeah. Peter, thanks for the presentation. That was awesome. I'm excited to have like a bunch more, what I'll call units of culture around community added.
Yeah.
Everything versus less, and
Oh yeah, definitely.
and it sounds like last year was really good and learned a lot, and This year, it feels like there's a lot more happening, like significantly more. And I bet we'll feel that in a community energy, you know, because that all makes a difference. So thank you for all your work.
Yeah, that's the hope. Thank you.
Moving on, staff
Thanks, Peter.
report.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Staff report, Nikki, what you got for us?
So of our, what are these goals again? I'm
Strategic planning goal. You're good.
Just kind of curious how the gap down between the road and the community center is coming.
Right? Let me know.
It has been a heck of a week, guys.
Yeah.
And so forgive me, I'm pooped out.
Yeah, good job. Also,
You know, the parks guys did awesome. I was stuck in my driveway for a couple days, so I didn't do as much as they did, but I feel like I'm trying to make up for it this week, shoveling my little heart out. So of these strategic goals, I think the only one that really has any kind of pertinent update to it is the Safer Main Streets. That's the sidewalk from the roundabout to the Tungsten Village area. It's a crosswalk at the library that's beaconed. It's a crosswalk at Jefferson toward between the Presby and the liquor store there. It's a crosswalk at the Rock Shop that is beaconed, and a crosswalk at the visitor center, putting in all of those crosswalks. And then moving the 20 or the 35-mile-an-hour sign that currently is like kind of by the Presby Church. We're gonna move that 500 feet west so that as people come around the roundabout, they're not slingshotting and like shot putting around the roundabout, because they won't theoretically see the speed limit increase until,
Almost past Tungsten Village.
yeah.
You would be 500 sheriff's deputies cars parked in that area would be.
I
a bit of
had
a
them,
deterrent.
I called the sheriff yesterday and had them come and protect me and the guys because people were going so faster on that roundabout.
That's
And
crazy.
we were trying to clear the sidewalks. They were wonderful. The sheriff showed up within 5 minutes and did a full traffic control operation and stopped the roundabout for me and my guys to complete those sidewalks in that area.
awesome.
So I was pleased, but I was also just mind blown that I even had to do it. Just mind blown that, you know, I'm like looking at people like, what are you doing, man? You're going 45 miles an hour before.
I'm not sure if this is part of the plan, but I was dropping our daughter off at daycare, who we go to the same daycare, and someone was speeding down the road. It was like 15 miles an hour. So I went and honked my horn at him because I was in my car right afterwards, and they pulled over. And I was like, "Is there a reason you're going so fast? It says 15 miles an hour. Do you have somewhere to be?" Very quickly. And they didn't respond. They just slowly backed out and drove away very slowly.
It's
It's like, yeah, it's pretty crazy. I don't think that's part of like the overall vigilante plan.
no, but it's a
I
problem.
was like, you were going way too fast.
Somebody in town says that we need to increase speed limits in any neighborhood or even on the highway. It's no way, no way. We are too slow of a community in that respect. We have too many people that use the roads or, you know, enjoy walking down their street, and to increase the speed limit in any neighborhood is just ridiculous.
And they're small roads too.
That's
They're
it.
narrow roads in general.
Small, narrow roads. We enjoy taking our walks with our neighbors and not being dusted out by people as well. So, and not to mention,
Rolling with kids.
speed is a huge
Yeah.
factor in road maintenance. So
There you go.
Nikki, were you saying there's gonna be a crosswalk at the Rock Shop where there isn't really a crosswalk now? Is that what
So
you said?
there used to be a crosswalk
Right.
until a few years ago when CDOT did their last overlay, and then they basically overlaid over the crosswalk and never put it back. And so now the current plan is to work in conjunction with with the paving project that's gonna happen. Actually, they've already started, you know, cutting trees and stuff for it. But that'll work in conjunction. The plan for, you know, we talked about a multiple different types of materials and how would we make those crosswalks safer and how would we make them more apparent. We talked about doing a speed hump. We talked about raised the truncated domes that we have at crosswalks anyway, to do those across the crosswalk. Nothing was really maintenance friendly and CDOT didn't like other things. And so the current, what everybody's agreeing on right now is they would cut into the asphalt, then lay down the crosswalk markings so that as people are plowing over them, they're not gonna get ripped up within the first couple of years. So it's a milling, a recess into the asphalt and then striping it. I think that's really most of the updates that are for those goals.
Well, it sounds like the crosswalks are a big deal. It makes the community more walking friendly.
That project will go out for bid within the next couple of months.
Great.
So hopefully we have to complete it by May of 25. We, as you know, aren't going to be doing a whole heck of a lot during the middle of the winter, so theoretically, hopefully we'll see that project completed, fall, late fall, early winter of this year. Fingers crossed. So I think everybody knows that the rink was closed at the end of February. It actually closed February 23rd. We were open later than we ever were open ever last year and closed earlier than we've closed in a long time this year. We tried really hard and the weather, bright sun and the warm temperatures wreaked havoc on the rink. We tried really hard to get one last disco night in, and that day we had to call it, and I was like brokenhearted, so Mark and Brian and myself dressed up in our disco costumes and wore them all around town that day. It was in lament. It was very sad.
I mean, outside of a covered, there's not much you can do with the weather.
There was nothing that we could do.
You can't.
It was totally out of our control. Completely melted, which, like Miranda and I talked about, it was kind of bittersweet when the rink did finally close, because that is like really, like, it is my happy place in the winter. I love it. That people are so friendly. They're so happy. But at the same time, every time the sun shines, I'm like worried about my ice. And I actually said to the guys, should we put up 10 by 10s? Should we put up like pop-up tents in some of the areas so we can get some people onto the ice, stuff?
Right.
Like, I was like, what can we do? And like, we could put up some pop-up tents because one side of the ice was actually still kind of decent. But the entry point, I couldn't get them past the entry point.
Right.
And so can we put up like a pop-up tent? We ended up building a snow bridge so that people were able to walk over the snow bridge and get onto the ice for the last couple of weeks of the season. So once the rink closed, I was finally able to enjoy the sunshiny, warm days that we've had this winter.
Oh, versus
And
Monday.
we got nailed with a 4, 5, 6 footer, whatever, depending on where you were. So fine.
Well, I know this would take time and maybe you've looked at it and it wouldn't work, but I come back to the number of trees that have just over the time gone down. They're just gone. And I wonder if reforesting more around the rink, I know that takes time.
That's
but
reasonable.
would provide, a level of shade. Especially looking at where is the sun coming from?
Sure.
This kind, in the winter, might in fact help. It, make the rink look nicer because
Surely.
that's one of the attractions of the rink.
Yeah, the forestation, like the natural area.
And then, you have a kind of natural barrier that might shade some of it to keep it open longer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a goal. It's always a goal. Anything I can do. So,
I'll say Nikki's really tuned into that kind of stuff.
Very,
She can
very.
share.
I very do indeed. So we'll begin the transition earlier this year, of course, than we did last year for the tennis season. Actually, as soon as the weather permits, we'll probably just start taking stuff apart. We've already moved all the mats and done all of those types of things. In the month of February, town staff got to participate in our town insurance company is called CIRSA. CIRSA's ice driving course on Georgetown Lake. It is an excellent training opportunity. An awesome, whenever you get to go, you always, it's a team building event for whichever staff you get to go with. And Not to mention it is so much fun.
Is that just like ice driving skills and everything that you see when you
You
drive
go,
past the
yeah,
Georgetown
when you
Lake?
go past the Georgetown Lake and you see all those people ripping donuts out on the lake, that's what we did. And then there's a race course that you race,
Yeah, yeah.
the race course.
And I'm just imagining like with all the vehicles staff is driving, that's a big deal in terms of
So
their ability to handle.
over the course of 3 days, one day we had 2 members go, and then the other 2 days we had 3 of the public work members go. And of those days that Nederland went, we took first, second, and third every single time.
All right.
I.
Ah.
Yeah, I actually got third. I got third in this whole staff. And so then on my day, I was like, I was a rock star. It is so much fun. Man, that's a smiley day. Because they're like, go out there and do as many donuts as you can, as fast as you can. And so you're just like, I practice this.
Does Barker have enough ice in the winter to host
I
something like
wish.
that?
Georgetown Lake's
Oh,
ice
so
and,
you're older would love it.
and not even close. Sure. Georgetown Lake, the ice on, ice on Georgetown Lake, the day that I went was 26 inches thick. And I couldn't get 4 inches of ice on the rink. And I just kept looking at the ice going.
They would make 80
26.
mountains.
Yeah, well, it's different when it's a lake. It's
Yeah.
just different. So, but that was, that was a lot of fun. And we get points with our insurance company, as well as all of our staff gets a lot of really good defensive driving training, and really you get to know the vehicle and what it's capable of on the ice, and so these next couple of months we'll be focusing a lot on some of the annual maintenance. The gator exploded. My little buddy. The front diff blew up on my John Deere Gator, so he's currently down at John Deere getting free work done,
Oh, wow.
thankfully. But then doing the maintenance on the skid steer, the Zamboni, all of our other vehicles, trying to get them all prepped up, as well as trying to focus on transitioning the rink area for a little bit earlier this season to get that all out of the way. This is not part of February staff report, but this last snow hit really hard and my guys rocked it. Ben spent the night at the shop for 3 days in a row. They were working 14-hour days. Brian is still burnt out. Poor buddy. I think he took a rest day today.
Yeah, good.
But we were all in every day that we're back in the equipment, still trying to clear the sidewalks, and we still have pieces left. So CT was kind enough to help me on Tuesday.
I did like
It
3 shovelfuls of.
I'll take it. It was 3 shovels full less than I had to do. So I took it. And then even Jesse Severs came by yesterday when I was working on this big old pile right by the mining museum. He was happened to be coming by in his Bobcat and took a big scoop and dumped it out. And I blew kisses his way. Thank you so much. Because I am literally pooping out. And in the middle of it, our septic tanks filled. And so I had to dig out the septic lids. So I was just like, can I stop shoveling now, please? So, kindly, the Board of Trustees is throwing a potluck for the Public Works crew that worked this past storm at the Very Nice Brewing, 4:45 tomorrow night. If you guys can come, I would love to see you all there.
Amazing.
So that's all.
I just also want to just highlight incredible work by direct staff, but also incredible leadership. I think the leaderships that Josh and Nikki and Andrew really showed going into this event, it was gonna be hard no matter what, but they were clear, methodical, had a game plan, knew what they were gonna do, knew the approach they were gonna take, kind of really worked in teams, and just a lot of kudos to that leadership and that management for knowing what was coming their way and being so incredibly prepared. I really appreciate all of their hard work as well.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big story.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
Fun, not fun. No,
You'll remember it.
you know,
it will be memorable.
it's
Thank
something that actually Jesse Severs and I were actually just talking about a little bit ago. A lot of great kudos early on, and that was wonderful. Morale suffers every single day when the community members then choose to come out in a pretty
Yeah.
rough form. A lot of cussing staff members out, getting in their faces, they're just trying to do their job, and people, as the days went on, appreciate board members were checking in, it was like, how's morale? And it's like, sucks today. Like,
Yeah.
it just gets harder and harder. And so I think for us, really trying to assess, like, how do we help change that before the events? Like, we understand the berms were hard, you shoveled, then we come by, we're bringing in berms. There's nothing we can do about that, but just really understanding this is a team approach. And so looking forward to diving into that more with the board about, like, how can we help? Because I would say maybe some of the conduct by some members of our community were beyond unacceptable and really wears on such a small team who are working 14+ hour days, just doing everything they can. And then to be treated in the way they were treated was really, really unfortunate to see.
Yeah.
How were they contacting you? Like, what were these interactions?
They were stopping them in their equipment to cuss
Coming
them
to
out,
our shop.
came to their shop, came to town hall, called us.
Get to your shop, what was
They
their?
put like signs up on their homes, like this person.
All right, don't plow that street. Easy peasy.
I just,
Like,
Pictures
but
bad now.
reality is like, what do you, what is it true? How do you handle that?
so I think we're trying to, we talked a little bit about, really maybe moving the chain of communication. That's town hall's job. And I think Josh, a lot of, kudos to Josh for really being an exceptional communicator. If y'all saw him,
Yeah.
he's on Facebook, he's trying to do that. But he's also like in equipment trying to answer the phone and just really recognizing that, like, not the town hall, we want to get yelled at either, but we're really the best conduit to take all that on, to triage it. I did encourage Josh, like, if people are stopping their equipment, say, here's Miranda's card, like, go call her, go call somebody else and go talk to them about your concerns, because that's where it really, I think, was unacceptable to me, that you're now so upset that you're going to stop them from doing their work.
Yeah.
To yell at them. And so I think I don't know the answer quite yet. And with Jesse and I were talking about it, but I think it's more of starts with the board of trustees, starts with just really kind of a culture of they hire me, they hire all of us, I hire department heads, we all are hiring really great staff and they stand behind us. And we hear you, we hear your disappointment, and we hear your concerns, and we're gonna do this together. And that was really our berm post. It was like, we know we just built a berm in front of your driveway, and we're all in this together. Like, you gotta come forward and help too. Like, we'll come back.
It's an unusual size event.
If we could.
For our
Yeah. So I wish I knew the answer, but it's every time, and I think that's hard. It's like, I don't know if I don't feel like
Do you
it's
see that like
such an
every time there's a
escalated,
snow event?
probably is worse this time.
It was worse this time because I think we had more snow.
Just because of the size.
Such an escalated event that, it's hard to hear staff just like getting up every day, going out to do the right
That's
thing,
horrible.
and just knowing that
What,
the support is diminishing every day. Yeah.
out of curiosity, what's kind of the volume of people that are complaining?
It's small. It's
Yeah.
small.
It's small.
You know what I would say is, it's easy to say,
Like-
don't pay
like
attention to that, but I
20,
think
30, I'm just, no,
They're
that's what I'm
texting
saying.
me when I was home
I
stuck
was
in
just
my
curious.
driveway. They're,
a couple dozen.
Couple dozen.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a small town, that type of feedback is valuable. Let those complaints be registered and let the names of those individuals be known to all. We ought to write a nice letter about their concerns to the daily cameras. Their conduct, their upset can be well known
I
to
adore you,
everyone in the community.
Thank you.
I think that's,
Oh, that's
I
correct.
think that seems right.
Mhm.
You're gonna curse
You know.
people out while they're doing their job in the middle of an emergency?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Let's all figure out just who that is.
I had to tell people,
Yeah,
I understand,
functional
we have a
solution.
berm, I know I get that. I live on the highway. I get it. That's why I was stuck in my driveway for 2 days. But as CDOT does, we will, if we can, when we can, come back and help. We see you out there shoveling. We, of course, and this happened a million times during it. If we see somebody out there actively working on their own driveway and trying to work their berm, we're not gonna berm them back in front of them and
Yeah.
be like, hey, bye-bye. That's not gonna happen. I've seen it a million times. I've
Yeah.
done it myself a million times where you just take your plow and swoop in and try and keep on going, but it takes time to do that.
We
You
can't do
can't.
that. We can't do that
Can't
7
do
or 8
it.
times over.
You can't
Yeah.
do it in the middle of a storm.
Yeah, so, I think we try to educate, and we've got an FAQ on our website, we've got all these things, but I really think it comes down to like, town staff aren't the enemy, we're really just trying to do a job, and so I think really appreciate Jesse here, who really heard us throughout, Jesse checked in every day, like, how's the morale? How's the
Yeah.
team? Like, I've never in my time on the board of trustees, with the board of trustees, seen a trustee check in every day during a major incident. He reached out to the team, really valued that. And so I appreciate that this is a charge he's really passionate about, of like, how do we continue that advancement of neighborliness and being good neighbors,
Yeah.
and recognizing that you might not be happy, but it doesn't mean that our staff are worthless, or some of the, the
No,
terms
no,
that people chose to use in these moments when they were just doing such a bang up job. I just think they're doing such an incredible job.
I did appreciate Jesse reaching out to me
Yeah.
even directly, and just with the thank you to me and my team. And it means a lot when you're getting nailed and you're tired and you're just a human.
Yeah.
That's what people don't understand. And of course, we have a transmission blow. We had the front diff blow on the Gator. We
Which
had
is tough on equipment.
chains were broken. It just like, yeah, it's tough.
The graders stuck up on the Ridge Road, didn't they?
The Freightliner. Well, not on,
that-
Big Springs.
that was-
The Freightliner was stuck in Big Springs for a couple.
And the loader was stuck at the bottom of Barker for a night.
We wouldn't have hit Ridge Road.
Yeah,
So
that
that's
would have
Boulder
been.
County.
Yeah,
counties.
we live up on Ridge, and you all have private on your side, but on our side, it's county.
Their grader broke.
And yeah, we were in for 2 days.
They got a new
I mean,
grader.
which is fine, just, the neighborhood.
They
And-
rent their grader.
But we called our neighbor
New fancy.
and, paid him to come dig us out so we could,
Tristan,
yeah,
did he come with the Mac?
he had the backup.
Oh,
Yeah,
he's got our old Mac.
he told me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only reason I bring this up is it's just, I think maybe helping as we start to navigate, like, what is that? I've always valued how much PROSAB has supported parks and
Yeah.
supported Nikki, and just knowing that I think this incident really highlighted how much more work needs to be done to repair. It's hard to say to repair a relationship, because I don't think town staff have really done anything wrong to
No, you haven't done
repair.
anything wrong.
I just think that repairing a relationship and through understanding and awareness and not excuses, we're short
Yeah.
staffed and we don't use that as an excuse. It's just
It's a
team of
reality.
4.
Yeah,
Like, they're
that's
not
huge.
big teams that are going out and doing this stuff. And so just it's education, awareness, and like we welcome your concerns, but in an appropriate manner. We welcome your concerns.
It was a very generous outlook.
And
It's like,
I don't think you're looking to cure someone that's out there yelling at a plow in the middle of a
Right.
53-inch
but
snowstorm.
two, we have a very
Being a bastard.
new community. A lot of our community, a big portion of our community is new. And they've
Are they
never
the
seen a
problem?
storm like this. A lot of our community has been here for 30 years or more, and you've never done it this way before. Well, it's,
We're getting it from all sides.
it doesn't.
so it's not just the,
If there was an app to track the plowing.
There actually is going to become an app. So Josh
That's great.
but not before this storm, but Josh did get an app or a tracker system, but the only thing is we can only put it in the plows. And so you're only gonna see where the plows are going, not necessarily where the grader and the loader are going, but nonetheless, it gives you something to monitor. But I think also our thing is like, we're coming.
Transmission.
We're-
yeah. You're not ignored, you're not forgotten.
Proactive communication was really great by Josh. I didn't see one negative comment on any of his
No.
posts. And I think putting a face to, this is not just the streets team, but this is a human being, your neighbor who lives in your community. And people were being like beyond laudatory to him in the comments. But then I feel like if town hall posts, people might be like, or
Yeah, when town hall posts, it's not quite the same. And so
Yeah.
Josh and I did kind of discuss like, where's that time and that place of him, that's his personal page. And so we that's something he chose to do on his
Right,
own. I think there's a lot of value. But yeah, it is easier to be mean to town of Nederland. And yet there is a human on the other side of that responding to that,
yeah.
whatever that.
I think the proactive, like,
Like
it should be like,
humanizing it.
like he said, oh, we're gonna be out widening Big Springs today. I was like, great, I'm so happy they're coming and widening Big Springs because I can barely
Yeah.
get out of my neighborhood. And, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, the putting out the priority map and the FAQs, like pushing that as much as you can proactively at the beginning of one of those events, I think goes a long way.
And what are the main channels that that we use?
Facebook.
Okay, it's just Facebook.
I mean, so we go to Instagram, but
Okay.
Facebook's where, and this note that we didn't even post on our own channels. We went straight to the group channels
Yeah.
and put it where we
Where
knew.
people
it was
were,
gonna-
because there's like
where to go.
emergency information.
It's funny, I won't look. I never see it on
Well,
Facebook.
for the record,
Not like
yeah.
read
They
the
should look at
comments.
Josh's.
Yeah.
Josh's are all good.
I
They're
can't.
all good.
For the record, my brother called and he's in, Old Town, and he was like, the streets are great. how are you all doing?
Yeah,
We're like,
you
oh,
should
we're stuck.
Maybe that's a countermeasure. It's like on our channels, Facebook, Instagram, whatever.
Yeah,
We do like a meet the team and like humanize the staff.
I think
somewhat
that's
so
great.
that it's not like, yeah, we're human beings. It's the town of Nederland. And I don't know what perception you have of what we're capable of, but it's for people
right.
breaking their
Well, yeah,
backs.
sign the
Yeah.
post, like Josh, streets manager,
Mhm.
you know, if you post from the town account, be like, hey, guys,
Right,
this is.
like, this is
me.
real people,
Yeah.
like, we are people taking care of you, and
Yeah.
I think.
I know
humanize it.
a lot of our streets and parks guys don't want to be on Facebook.
That's fair.
They don't want to be.
Stuff, it's ruthless. out there.
Yeah, but I mean, Josh.
They're not on their, they don't have their own page, let
And
alone.
even not even like a, hey, I'm here to answer questions, or I'm here to engage with you, but like, put a face and a name together. We have 4 people on our parks
Like,
team, or what,
if
you
they
know.
could read my staff reports, they would see pictures of me and my team every single
So
week.
maybe that's a solution too. I mean,
Yeah.
Especially in our disco costumes.
It works.
Well, Jesse talked about doing a video maybe as a board member, just kind of talking about how to, you know, how the, like kind of the staff to town to board relationships. And I think that could be great. I mean, just again, it's like, we don't know the answer, but want to fix this.
Yeah.
To the best we can. To CT's point, someone who's willing to maybe scream and cuss out someone in equipment, we're probably not gonna reach that person, but maybe across the board, someone might think twice about the way they want to conduct themselves when they're so.
Could be too, like the idea of, it's kind of this idea of like a culture of gratitude when you're in these events versus a culture of attitude, you know? And is this came
Good
right?
slogan.
Yeah.
That's a great.
And then. This came
The
up.
first day we did have a.
But I think the idea is like that could be, even just a sort of debrief if the Mountaineer was interested in writing one and talking about, you know, the impact this has on the town morale. And that there was a lot of positivity and there was also a lot of negativity and that was hard. In the middle of an emergency crisis situation, which is what the small force is. Even if we live in the mountains, we're used to snow, it's a huge event for the
I mean,
average event.
Those guys are busting their butts. Every girlfriend and wife was pissed off at their man.
For not coming home.
For not coming home. And it was insane, the amount of just like.
They
these
need
guys
a
were trying-
culture of gratitude as well.
Yeah, ran in there checking butts.
Um,
I can't believe it. They actually like made me thankful that I'm single. So, it's like, all right, I got this.
Well, thank you for understanding.
Yeah.
Thank you. If you have, when you go home and you think about this later, if you have thoughts, we'd love to hear them. But just, yeah, again, I hope you all come tomorrow night. That's actually being sponsored by Jesse and Tom. Really love that they're doing that. And yeah, just Nikki, kudos to you and the team and
And I think it's,
super proud personally of just like what they were able to accomplish and what they did. It's incredible.
my experience was you guys did great.
Hey, thanks. Considering you don't live in town.
Well, yes, but here was the deal. You did so good that like, I was like, hey, you're gonna ride your snowmobile up here, Max? And like, come, so I can go ski on that thing and ride around on it and come get the second one at your house. And he was like, no, the streets are like really good. Like I
Oh, yeah.
like, I don't really want to ride it on the streets and like flick up gravel and stuff.
I was impressed. Like, I wrote a thank you letter to, Gilpin County Public Works and Gilpin County CDOT because
Yeah.
they did fabulous. All,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody, but I personally wrote one to my own plow people out there, just saying thank you. I know how hard this was. And, I know you probably got a lot of loud complainers from 3% of the people, but 90% of them really
Super
appreciate
happy.
what you did.
Agreed.
So.
Yeah, they'd still be stuck.
So
Right.
if you feel so inclined to ever send an email of thanks and gratitude to a plow team, not necessarily parks, but streets, they don't hear
So
it
email
as
you-
much as
Is
parks.
that the best way? Or?
Yeah, you can read, it's actually streets@netherlandsco.org. It's to the streets team.
Mhm. And I think those types of emails don't fall on deaf ears.
Agreed.
So,
Agreed.
Anything else from the update there other than switching
Nope.
that culture of attitudes or culture of gratitude
I love that.
amongst the town that doesn't have it?
Yeah.
Call your neighbors out.
Yeah.
Maybe can I just add 2 more things? Oh, you didn't highlight them, but water main, there was a water main break and Nikki plays a pretty essential role from her traffic controls, traffic safety perspective of her role played a big role, but also just her team helped utilities, and just the partnership between utilities, streets and parks is incredible right now. It's an all hands on deck, and these water main breaks used to take days to do.
It was right before the
The
storm.
and the last two, they got them done the same day. So
It
pretty
was
big deal.
huge because it was right before this.
And a lot of help to Nikki,
That
'cause
was
it
the
was
one
also
on
right off the
Second
highway.
Street.
Oh,
This
okay.
one happened right in front of Tungsten Village.
Gotcha.
And so that's when I get more involved because I'm a certified traffic control
Got it,
supervisor.
got it.
And so I'm able to make a traffic control plan that I can send to CDOT. And I'm allowed to do that. I don't really need to do it as much if it's on a town street. I can help Andrew do it.
Yeah, but either way, the teamwork, it's again, like the snow event, all hands on deck, no matter what the incident is. So,
Anytime there's a big incident like that, a water main break, I hate even saying that word. Whew,
should say it loud.
knock on wood. So utilities, of course, obviously handles the water and the break and that kind of
Sure.
thing. Streets will a lot of times handle the digging or this CDL component, trying to find the water mains. As a lot of times there's a lot of hand shoveling involved. Then Parks is typically in charge of, or in what we do to help out is to bring all the traffic control down, make sure that all that's out set up, to monitor that throughout the day, make sure it's stayed up, because if it's weather,
Yeah.
things get knocked over.
Right.
But yeah, I was super impressed with these last couple.
Same day is unreal. Yeah, it's incredible.
Smooth.
All right, my shout outs.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all you do. Good to move on to PROSAB 2024 goals. All right. First, my perspective, I dropped the ball on this last one.
Well, so maybe I can go back to Amy, if you recall, Amy from our Colorado Tourism Office worked on chapters 2 and 3. The group reviewed it, gave Amy some feedback. Amy has questions, so now the next task is for the group
Right.
to send me your comments on her questions. I'll compile them, send them out. But then I think our next PROSAB meeting, we'd like to bring the chapters to you all for you to review what Amy did.
Chapters 2 and 3.
2 and
Right?
4.
Oh, and 4, yeah.
Yeah.
2 and 4.
No, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was more
And that's
complicated.
like,
We're back. I think we're back on.
yeah,
I think we are.
Nikki and Alex, we were like sick and whatever, as a family, just out.
Oh,
Oh, no, you're fine.
I think, yeah.
Continued on.
I
Are
had,
we resuming our regular, like, meetings before the next PROSAB meeting, or we're not going to, we're just gonna?
I think we probably should. I was just kind of canceling on a week by week basis. So I believe the next one is on our calendar and
Okay.
can stay.
When is that? Sorry, my
Um,
calendar is not as good as your calendar. It's scattered across many calendars.
Jeez Louise.
it's,
Oh my gosh.
it is on April 11th.
Actually,
I
at the,
know.
what was it at the time? We were doing
Sounds like.
4?
I lost control.
Wait, at 4 p.m.? 4
It's
p.m.
at 4. Okay, and I feel like we as a group need to at some point decide on the surveying stuff, because I feel like the last time we had a substantive discussion as a PROSAB board regarding PROST, there was some pushback on not surveying and desires to do surveying, but then also talk of tagging on to the comprehensive plan
Yes.
surveys. So I don't know if I don't think we have an informed viewpoint on that today, but I think at some point we have to talk.
Well, and actually technically the comprehensive plan survey is done. So if you're wanting to do, if you didn't love the questions in the comprehensive plan survey, then you're gonna have to do that.
Right, but like, could we just be like, take out from their
I'll
data?
forward you the
Got the comprehensive
results.
plan.
Yes.
Here, I'll
Yeah.
send the results to PROSAB of the
Cool.
survey. This doesn't include the downtown. The downtown one is happening as we speak, so take it if you haven't. But this is the one that happened before the downtown.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna us four are gonna meet
Yes.
11, and then next meeting of PROSAB, we're gonna bring chapters 2 through 4 with Amy's edits to the board. Okay.
And we owe
Sorry,
Miranda
I
some
need to get
feedback.
myself straight on what's
Yeah.
happening, so.
And we owe Miranda some feedback by Monday.
Yeah,
Yes, I also owe feedback.
yeah.
Me too.
Me too.
Y'all.
So
And we'll
don't
get that to you.
talk about yourself dropping the ball. We're
Yeah.
in your boat.
Well, I'm just calling it out, you know,
Okay, yeah.
I got you.
for myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just.
Yeah, you did. I didn't.
Answer her question.
Yeah.
At this
She
point.
sent questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
They came last week.
Tomorrow.
In my defense, the questions came last week.
Yeah.
And I,
Last week is a wash.
last week was a wash.
For you. For all of us, maybe for me, it's like.
I know, I realized when she sent them, it's like, that's why I texted you all, like, we should probably do this.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Hey,
Anything else on pros that you feel is relevant? I'll move on. Volunteer program,
Yeah, so.
excited to hear about it.
Yeah, Lindsay and I have been talking the last week to see kind of where we can find synergies with Lindsay has a connection with someone at the food pantry, so to learn more about their volunteer program and see kind of in terms of like data keeping and you know, what sorts of internal programs or, you know, systems that they have. And then Kate also was nice enough to reach out and offer her assistance as well. And Lindsay and I discussed wanting to pick Kate's brain on the farmer's market volunteer as well, just to see what that looks like. And then I'd also reached out to Peter this afternoon, since it's my understanding that Peter might have some sort of volunteer list or some sort of like some sort of information with like the town volunteer.
He was starting it, I don't know if he totally has it.
Okay. Well, yeah, we want to.
Nothing, he can't compile it from all the department heads who know, we have our whole town cleanup list and, yeah.
Yeah, so I think this next month, we're gonna be meeting with, with the woman that runs the food pantry. Kendra, yes, that Lindsay is gonna meet with, and then we'd like to meet with Kate, we might need to like notice a public meeting for the three of us
easy.
to meet, but
Just tell me
I
when.
think it would just makes sense for us to all get together to, you know, and then meeting with Peter as well. And then the other issue was that I touched base with Jesse this past month about that trail maintenance team that we kind of talked about a couple months ago, and people doing trail maintenance, and it seemed like there was some interest in that, but maybe trying to figure out the logistics on how that would work and like not overburdening Nikki. But also recognizing that people might be really interested in volunteering their time to help with in the Moose Meadows
Yeah,
area.
I talked to Jesse about that. The old Saws and Slaws, sorry, didn't mean to cut it.
Oh, no, you're fine. Yeah.
The old Saws and Slaws group, I volunteered to pick up wherever that left off. So I'm kind of looking for people that had an attachment to it, if there's an old list. And I'll be going around neighborhood. I've heard a lot of people talk about this, but this summer goal is to get that group more or less back together. And start doing volunteer removal of down trees and slash. Possibly standing dead, but only with the approval of the Parks Board.
Good. I
What's the
was
slaws?
hesitant to let anybody work trails up in that area until we, as a PROSAB, decide what we want that recreation corridor to look like.
Yeah,
Is there any maintenance style stuff that makes sense regardless?
moving the dead trees.
Downed trees and
Downed
getting
trees.
the snags and things like
So
that.
if you wanted to build momentum around that, does that make sense to like?
Yeah.
That would be an incredible place to start, as it's really just a fire hazard.
Being sensitive to the woodland.
Yes.
Did Jesse send you the information I had sent him on sods and slots? If not, I'm gonna forward this email to you.
I've got to check. He may well have done.
Okay, I might just send it just in case.
What's a
Please do.
flaw?
I was gonna ask.
Like a coleslaw.
Like the coleslaw.
Flaw?
Yeah, they used
And you eat.
Okay.
They used to meet in the morning.
No, wait, this is it, but.
Yeah, no, that's
Okay.
it. Yeah.
They used to meet in the morning and then there's one in Coal Creek called Axe and Snacks.
Oh.
But they used to meet in the morning and they would,
It's a real coleslaw.
yeah, and they would meet in the morning and then they would have lunch. And it was
So
not.
coleslaw was the choice in the morning.
Very weird.
Take a position on.
It was a very popular group, very popular, and it was.
That's
always
great.
a bit of fun.
And then I think
Cool.
we might have a public comment for some, remember, but
Yeah.
question on this.
We'd love to hear it.
And as I said, I really appreciate the fact that Nikki, and her team was the first team that ever put anyone up behind the property on open space.
Coming again this year.
Huge number of trees. Some of them had been cut down by the town long time ago.
Yeah.
12 years ago and just left. I mean, just
Oh.
a pile of dead stuff. And, but what I wanted to say was, I do think that saws and slaws is wonderful, and I don't want to put more work on Nikki, but I'd love it if this board would advocate with planning commission and the board of trustees that one of the things that's needed is equipment and staff so that Nikki or the Parks or Public Works, whoever is the appropriate department, can routinely, every single year, go through the town space
Mhm.
along the trails, in between property lines, and do fire mitigation, because frankly, it's a mess. I mean, and that's not anything.
No.
It's just the town for decades did not have staff, they didn't have equipment, they didn't have money. If we've got some money, then that should be a high priority. You know, egress for big springs, high priority, lots of things. But fire mitigation, I mean, we can do all the recreation and so on that we want, but if we have a wildfire come through here, it's all gonna be gone anyway. And like the trail, as an example, in my neighborhood, a lot of the people have done and routinely do mitigation on their properties, okay? But, you know, then there's what's around their property that they can't.
Right.
And so, for example, the trail that runs from Indian Peaks along School Road up to the elementary school. There's
Which
a lot of-
CT's in your neighborhood, essentially.
There's a lot of dead trees down there, and there are some really big standing dead trees. And at some point, they'll come over, hopefully not on top of someone,
Mhm.
which could happen. But I mean, that's this fuel for a wildfire all through. But it's not, we're not alone in that, there are
Right.
other neighborhoods.
It's-
So it would be wonderful if the town would make it a priority to provide the funding and the staff, so that, like some municipalities do around the country in different ways, like
Yeah,
in the Northeast, it's leaves, you know,
Right.
that the town publicizes in the newspaper and on the website a week when your neighborhood is going to get attention, and you can actually post to them areas you're concerned about. So that, but then there's the staff and the equipment to actually do that job. But it would be, I think the volunteer work is wonderful, but in my view, it's not enough. I mean,
Yeah.
we live in wildfire country, climate change is real, and we have to have something more routinized with actual budget to support it, so that it gets done regularly, maybe with support from volunteers, but I don't think the volunteers can do as much as probably needs to be.
I quite agree. That is the tool that we have available to us.
Right,
Well, you're right, and I think we really appreciate that input, and it helps us take that and champion it forward additionally,
I think advocacy.
towards
from this
budget
group,
and things like that,
the
that,
planning commission and then
Yeah.
the planning committee, you know,
because that's really the role ultimately of the board, is to
Yeah.
advise on those things, so absolutely, thank you.
U.S. Forestry Service is also keen to look at major fire mitigation efforts along the Front Range, but particularly with regard to our watershed.
I'm gonna take it back over to Casey, anything else to add? Volunteers and,
I guess
yeah, we
for
know
the,
what laws are, that's helpful. But it's
yeah,
not
I mean, what could Lindsay and I do, like working with Nikki or whoever to try to move that piece of it along, or, you know, like the open space mitigation work, or what could we do like as a potential next steps to
To do
continue,
fire
just to
mitigation.
continue talking about it, or what, you know, I don't know how this should evolve, or.
Our heat's fixed at the shop now, so it's not either burning hot or freezing.
Yeah.
So if you, a couple of you guys want to come and have a talk with me, I'll tell you where we've gotten with, like the fire department and where we've gotten with youth corps and what I've got going on this year with the other volunteers that I have coming up from the city.
Okay.
But, as far as like budget.
Well,
what's-
that's, you know, what I would ask is research the grants, like,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
truth be told, it's
Yeah.
hard for, like, they have to fall into our lap, like, we can apply for them all day long, but like, find the funding structure. Give us a quick rundown of what it is, and we'll tell you, we can decide if it's gonna work for us, like, that's what we need.
I have
is the
very,
funding.
Which is an aspect of volunteerism, someone who might want to
Yeah.
volunteer, looking for
Yeah.
grants,
The incredible.
looking for,
or looking for funding sources.
yeah.
Super, I mean, I think any and all, like, we're also looking
In
for
addition,
the playground grants, like,
Mhm.
that's really where a lot of help can be used here. is
And the playground is
Find the money.
one of my
Find the money.
goals for the year. So
Find the
Gotta
money,
find the money.
yeah.
find the money
match.
with no match or matches in kind or something like
Yeah,
that.
are very minimal options, but.
Yeah.
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 is the state or federal government related to climate change doing anything along these kinds of funding grant lines for, again, wildfire mitigation?
yeah, where we could get some of that money for our city and even out of the county or something like
I
that.
mean, there's
Don't-
grants out there now, but they're for homeowners.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know is there's,
That's a good thing to consider.
specific federal monies available for climate-specific fire mitigation. But I know that the Forestry Service is actively putting together a plan to do more large-scale operations in our area.
Yeah, they're working with the fire department and town staff to
I've
come up
sat
with
in on
these
it.
wonderful plans. Wonderful. Wonderful maps.
If Lindsay had anything she wanted to
Yeah.
add.
Lindsay, do you have anything?
Yeah, thank you, Casey. That was a great description of what we've been working on. And I just want to add that, you know, a part of this is to get like a database of volunteers for specific things, right? Like what people really want and are interested in getting involved in. So I think, you know, like grant writing or grant research or, you know, volunteering at weed pool day. So I think, I know that the food pantry has a really good system of tracking their volunteers and like the different types of volunteering that they're interested in. And so I look forward to talking to Kendra probably next week on how they're organizing that.
And so it sounds like maybe Lindsay and I can maybe set up a time to meet with you, Nikki, before the next board meeting.
Is there any kind of incentivizing we can do? Volunteer for like X amount of time, they can get some kind of discount
Pencil.
on the community
I have
center
pencils.
membership or something like that?
That's what I got. I will sharpen the
No,
pencil.
seriously, you know, if someone volunteers X number of hours, like a
The
percentage
coin
discount.
or something. We've talked about those
On
kinds of
the
things
community
before.
center.
Swag
Swag.
goes a long way with
Yeah.
volunteers,
So-
like, that's sort of-
But your hat and your shirt. Give it to them.
Just get here, sir.
Don't give us enough. You need your clothes.
Turn off your back. You know?
But we do, we have, I mean,
I was just
we don't
curious.
really have a budget for that.
Well, that's what I was like,
What I got.
that's what I was thinking about
We
things
could
that,
do,
$50.
that's what I was thinking about. We need to figure that out. That's a problem. But,
You heard the end slaws part, right?
okay. Let me bring this back to like you know, what can we offer that doesn't cost money but is incentivized? Like, oh, can you get like 10% off
Yep.
your membership at the community center or something like that?
Well,
what about like a volunteer appreciation day? You know, we bring the grill out and the park and, you know, people bring food or, you know, like donate food to that and we can have volunteer appreciation days.
Want to volunteer, just like things that
Rewind.
people actually like make a difference and care about, you know?
Yeah, the one we had this past year, there was the first one I actually went to and there was, I had a glass of wine. It's delicious. But no, we do the volunteer appreciation party at the rink. When someone volunteers for me, they get a free day pass.
Like, that's like a cool thing.
And there's tiny stuff, but like literally I have $50 in that budget this year. So
Yeah, you don't have like.
I could buy 20 hats and pass them out to the 20 volunteers that I get that do over 10 hours or something.
I mean, I'll give you another $50.
I would too, I would give $50, but even like Elevated Impressions, they're
Yeah.
local, like
That's who
screen.
we use.
Okay, great, yeah,
Yeah.
could they do anything in kind, like if they?
No, but they made my rink shirts and they gave me a discount and I put a sticker up on my board that says Elevated Impressions.
And I think a lot of people who volunteer don't really, you know, they're not in it for that. They're obviously in it just because they want to volunteer.
Hope so.
But, you know, it's like a cool benefit. Oh, I volunteer X number of hours. I get my gym
They
membership
get to
at a
keep
20%
their-
discount.
Their work gloves.
Like, that feels cool. And then it brings revenue that you otherwise might not get to the town.
They're 99-cent
So
pair of
that's
gloves.
what
They gotta keep.
Yeah, the thought process.
Yeah.
Maybe explore it.
Big win.
And a pencil?
We can.
Cause like I'd be like, that feels like something that's more incentivizing than. like the hat.
So, and for town cleanup day,
Everybody's
a
different.
couple years ago, we bought a bunch of reusable shopping bags and gave them to the people that volunteered as well as the first 100 people that came in for that event. I still have mine
I
too.
think the big thing for that is getting you done yourself. You know.
Yeah, town cleanup day,
That was the incentive.
Right, that's like a functional incentive that's like, oh, cool, that saves me some money or whatever, and.
So I do
my-
try to-
And I get to volunteer.
when we have
Yeah.
volunteer things like that, I do try to treat my volunteers well. There's nothing I've done for people in the past for weed pulls.
Sure, yeah.
thanks.
And maybe it is like, well, that's fine. Maybe it's like a certain threshold of hours that you have to meet for a different level. of-
Sure, but if it's a big event like town cleanup day, you work
Yeah,
hard.
like they get a free pass to the pool.
But it might be something that maybe that's, what?
You can go vote on Barker for free.
Drive on Barker event that we're hosting.
I think
Where
think about
do you plow?
at businesses and ask them to give you
There you go.
coupons.
That's for the
and
beer.
a lot
That'd
of
be
other
cool.
options.
Yeah, like what's,
It's very nice, willing to put all the volunteers on their board, you know. or
yeah,
things
something like that. Like, yeah.
I work at Howling Wind. I could probably work with Howling Wind on something there too.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be
We
sweet.
can get
Awesome.
You work in Hollywood?
one day a week.
What night, what
It's
day?
Thursdays and yeah,
Ah.
so the third Thursday I switch and I usually work
Okay.
Wednesday, so I can be here.
Cool.
What we need is a.
We're on to the last one.
Chains, chaps, axes, et cetera.
Do you wanna talk to them?
Chains and chaps, not associated. That's part of the public record.
In the interest of wrapping.
Or is that one more?
Well, yes, a matter of
Yeah.
public record, I have no knowledge of the chains and chaps organization.
If you want to pursue that, I'd encourage you to.
Yeah.
Like seriously, because I bet they'd be interested. And then in the interest of just like finishing on time. Kate, you have another comment?
One thing that I've learned in like running volunteer things is to do a follow-up survey with your volunteers. Because there are tricky ways that you can like exponentially boost your volunteer pool by asking them like, what would make this a little sweeter for you? And give them a multiple choice. Like, I know there are lots of people that like a stupid ass sticker would be like, just to kind of show like, yeah, I volunteer for PROSAB or I like helped with PROSAB goes a super long way. And
Yeah.
asking people for that, like just knowing that you're gonna ask them and having that set up sets you up for success.
Awesome for you. Thank you all, Chris.
Thank you for what you're doing, and Lindsay. Pub track, Sam and Jesse. We put it out to the people. See what the people say.
Am I supposed to have a ballot? My
Is it in
house?
Yeah.
April? It's on
Well,
April.
they went out in batches.
Okay.
So the last batch went out on Monday.
Okay.
And you might be in the last batch.
Okay.
And
So
just to
then
be
by our
clear,
next meeting. then-
yeah,
But if you don't have it by next week, you should reach out to Macy for.
when will we have the vote? And just to be
April
clear what
2nd.
that is, there's a vote on the pub track, on location, of whether or not people want. What's
Yeah,
it
it's
actually?
on the back and something about flipping a piece of paper over is hard for people.
Oh, you're not getting
Yeah.
responses?
They call and go, I didn't realize it's on the back. Once you vote, we don't open it up for you. So once you vote, so remember there is it's clear on the bottom. There's a big box on the bottom that says there's a back. Please flip it over. Please fill out the front and the back.
People aren't.
Things
So
on
by
the back.
the next meeting, we'll have an agenda item regarding the outcome
Yes.
of the election.
You will know the outcome.
And then we'll have,
And maybe Jesse or the person.
And you'll know if Jesse's, you'll know who your PROSAB liaison is, because that could always
Oh,
change.
that's
You
right.
also know, of course, if Jesse is reelected.
Jesse, if you're reelected, are you planning to remain our liaison? Do you know?
Jesse,
Yeah, if I can, I'm hoping to. I haven't heard anybody else saying they want it. Nobody's challenging me for the role, so I'm hoping I get to keep it.
Would it be a conflict of interest if your brother gets elected and?
he's not elected.
It's not even.
He got,
right.
he had the meeting time on his calendar wrong and then everybody,
uh,
whatever. He's on the board of zoning and adjustment, is that right?
Yeah, he didn't end up submitting a nomination petition though to be on the board of
Right,
trustees.
right. Yeah, he did.
That was
Oh,
the-
maybe that
He
was
did.
why
He did.
smaller
No, he did.
meetings,
He did.
so,
You're
okay.
correct. He
Yeah.
did.
He did run for appointment, but
Yeah,
didn't.
he didn't make it. Wasn't his time.
Yeah, but he's showing up. I see him everywhere.
That's right. He's now on the board. of-
BZA, Board of Zoning Adjustment.
Yeah. So talk to him about your zoning needs. Anyways, that said, moving on to rink and tennis, I feel like, kind of updated us a little bit. Is there any other updates?
Meeting schedule?
No, I was supposed to send out the doodle pool today, but today got away from me, so I'll send out a doodle pool tomorrow. But the next meeting, we went through our first round of mitigation with the two boards.
Okay.
Mediation.
Y'all
I'm
took
tired, I'm sorry.
a little mitigation.
We might have done a mitigation, but
It's
yes,
a little
we went
punchy
through
anyways, it's fine.
sir, the first round, and the meeting itself went very well.
Okay, cool.
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
We talked a lot about building a roof, I think, to the sound point and to the sun
Yeah,
point.
try and help.
It
with
kind
the
of, and the
sound.
public community feedback kind of solidified our desire to build some sort of cover over the rink. And tennis was amenable to that, which is good.
Mhm.
So I feel like that was.
So would this be like an open air?
Open air roof that would kind of pitch back toward your house, so you wouldn't have to hear as much of the sound.
Yeah, it would help with the noise.
Is there
Happy
any,
with
are
this.
there any like preliminary drawings on that that people would see, or is that just like discussion completely?
I think the other thing that
Yeah, they haven't drawn that up yet.
that would help is reforesting that area on that side, actually probably on both sides. I know that, I don't really know the people very well up on Juneau Circle, but I know some of them were concerned again about what the development would be like because their homes were down, you know, from the ridge onto the thing.
I won't let anybody take another tree down in that area. I'm very, very sensitive about my trees.
Yeah, well, they're just coming down, as you know, from the wind. I mean, and that, I don't know, maybe the roof would help with, I just don't know what to expect of that.
Me either.
A berm and some more trees would probably help because it would block. And that would be nice.
But the ice can't operate essentially without a covering long term. So that's.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And we talked about the idea, and this is just ideas, everything's an idea right now, but we did talk about the idea of putting solar panels on the roof so that it would help power the rink itself as well as potentially provide power to some of the neighbors. Thanks.
Well, if you did do solar panels, and just as a question, I don't know anything about this, but would you be able to power almost a refrigeration kind of unit to keep the ice more stable? Or, that's a weird question.
Yeah, we would have to redo the entire surface to get a refrigeration in there.
I think
It's like a different style.
And they would have had to have bored holes when they originally put the slab down. They would have had to have bored holes through it. And instead they did a post tension. So it holds the concrete together really well, but there's no way to drill through that anymore.
And create like a system of cooling.
Yeah.
Alrighty, we're getting to the end of our meeting time, so we'll try and keep it within that since we are able to.
Thank you.
Are any other last pieces to that rink and tennis? Otherwise, we're gonna wrap this agenda up for the evening.
Motion to adjourn. You won?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yes.
Anyone opposed?
Yeah, aye.
Aye.
Sorry, let's do all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I count.
Thank you all for your work.
Bye, Lindsay,
Thank
bye,
you.
Jesse.
Thanks for coming.
Bye, thank you.
Perfect, Aaron. Thanks for your input.